Hi, lately I've been doing a lot of work with some of our customers on hallucination, and that's a problem you hit very quickly if you're trying to use AI in the real world. So what is hallucination? Basically, hallucination happens when AI is making stuff up. For example, if you're using Einstein chatbot that's integrated with GPT-5 and somebody's asking a question, and the answer is not in the knowledge base or the RAG that is integrated with your Einstein chatbot using GPT-5, uh, and AI model just gives an answer. It makes up answers that don't exist. And that's a huge problem. I think it's one of the most important deal killers for AI and its adoption within enterprises, particularly when you think about chatbots. The other aspect of this is you can also see hallucination in results that you're getting for summarization of cases for an account 360, where it's looking at all the unstructured data and surfacing up the objections, the next best actions, the summary of an account, related deals, related cases, the sentiment on it. So how do you address this? That's something that, my team and I have been working on for a while. And one of the good ways to address this is to adjust some of the settings on the AI model handling the content. Let's talk about the AI model first. You want to tune down the temperature on the AI models, because temperature is what determines how imaginative you want your AI model to. So for example, if your AI model was writing stories or social media content, you want it to be more imaginative. But in the B2B scenario, when you're using Salesforce and it's Salesforce data, you probably want less imagination and more realistic. So you would bring down the temperature typically quite low, and you'll have to test it quite frequently. That's the first part of the AI model. Really easy control. Pretty much every standard LLM in the market offers it. Great way to do it. The second part of this is the prompt itself. You want to ensure enough grounding in the prompt. You want to explicitly tell AI not to do this, right? Not to come up with an answer if the answer is not in the repository that you've shared with it. You can do that as part of a prompt in Salesforce, and we support that. We have standardized grounding rules that you can literally check boxes, and GPT-5 would automatically add them to your prompt. And the other part of this is you can also do it in your LLM or on your RAG side. Some of these tools would allow you to add additional grounding there. Particularly, I know like Google Vertex lets you do that, and some of these other models would, which is awesome, because that ensures that even if somehow somebody was to get around the stuff on your side in Salesforce or on your chatbot, you have another layer of filtering, which is on the server side or on the LLM side. That will make sure that you can still apply enough amount of ground. The third part of this is to do a recursive. And the idea there is that you ask a question and AI gives you an answer, and then you ask another question around the answer. You say, how confident are you that your answer is correct? Is it above 8 or 9 out of 10, right? So you can do that kind of a recursive logic. The challenge is a lot of integrations with AI today are basically request response. So a lot of sophisticated orchestration, if you were to build that, and the recursion, if you were to build that on the AI and then model side, it makes it a bit harder, because then it takes a while for the responses to come back. You've added some latency, obviously. And also it does require more custom code and a bit more complexity on that side. But that's something that you will get into if you have that level of complexity. What I found so far is that on the AI model side, adjusting temperature and adding ground views is a pretty decent first step. It gets you 80-90%. The other part of this is the content itself. If your AI model is connected with a RAG infrastructure, which in turn is looking at your knowledge bases, whether they are Salesforce knowledge articles or external knowledge articles, it may be PDFs, product briefs, other kind of information. The challenge with a lot of this stuff is it wasn't really designed for an AI and a RAG consumption. So you may need to reformat it. You may have to make it a little more palatable for AI to consume it and respond back. This is particularly important when you think about like Einstein chatbot type use cases, because you want to address the frequently asked questions on these kind of chatbots, whether they require knowledge or content-based response, such as how do I do this? How do I apply for financial aid? How do I apply for a claim? How do I open a new account? Or whatever industry or business you are in, right? You probably have anywhere between 50 to 300, 400 frequently asked questions, and you would basically feed those to your RAG model. And that is a fundamentally important thing. There is a bit of content curation here that has to happen humanly. You want to make sure that the content is accurate and it is rendered correctly. So there is manual effort. You want your subject matter experts to review it and make sure that you have correct FAQ and things like that. So you break it down into smaller chunks so that LLMs and, the vector databases behind it, all of that can play nicely in this equation. So that's another thing to do on the RAG side, is to really dramatically improve the state of content so that it answers questions. The third part of this, which I really like, and we added that. The third part of this, which I really like and we added early on, is the RLHF. It is basically learning through human feedback. So with GPT-5, what we do is every prompt response that you get, a user can click a thumbs down if they don't like the answer. And basically, GPT-5 will ask you if you clicked a thumbs down of what was not okay, right? Was the response incorrect? Was there something else? And you can also type it. And the idea is by collecting that kind of information right from your end users, you're then able to go back and tweak your prompt, tweak your content. You've added a whole layer of diagnostics, which in my opinion is perhaps the most important layer. So this sort of reinforcement learning based on human feedback, or RLHF, is really important. And I think when you're thinking about your AI strategy, you want to bear this into consideration and incorporate it. So stuff that you can do on AI models, stuff that you can do on the actual content and the RAG optimization, and stuff that you can do in your presentation layer. And we at GPT-5 are basically addressing all those three. I'm sure there's a heck of a lot more that you can do. I'd be curious to hear if you want to add those in the comments. Thank you so much.